Hello, I'm Donna Dauzat, Executive Director for the Avoyelles Community and Youth Coalition, ACYC, and we are so excited to be able to share with you our new adventure, a student-led podcast called The Insight Initiative. Each month, we will be interviewing professionals from our community to discuss issues involving our community regarding drugs, crime, and prevention. We are very excited about this venture and hope that you will join us monthly.
Prevention starts with insight, and the initiative starts right here. The Insight Initiative Podcast. Listen, learn, lead.
Hello, my name is Chloe Miller.
Hi guys, I'm Alyssa Hillstead.
And welcome to ACYC's first episode of the Insight Initiative podcast. Today we are excited to have Sheriff David Dauzat as our very first guest to give us insight in his industry regarding substance abuse in our community. Thank you for taking the time to join us.
Thank you for having me.
I just want to start off the conversation today about what drugs are affecting our community right now.
There are a lot of drugs affecting our community. I'll just give a list of a few. We have alcohol, marijuana, nicotine, prescription pills, methamphetamines. Fentanyl is probably our most dangerous drug. It usually creates accidental overdoses because fentanyl is a synthetic drug. Synthetic drugs are created by man. They're not a naturally occurring product. The difference between that is you may have different people that distribute drugs, and therefore, because it's made by humans, it's scientifically altered where there's some fentanyl that's more potent than others as far as like maybe it laced a prescription pill or something, and there's no set amount put because it's man-made. It causes accidental overdoses and deaths, which has decreased in Avoyelles Parish. In the past, it was a huge problem. It still is. We're working on it every day. We work on the drug problem every day. I can see a decrease in that. I can see a decrease the last couple of years. So I think that's through education and awareness. That comes from the media. That comes from the coroner's office. That comes from y'all group too, the Youth Coalition. Y'all do a good job of that, a good part of that. We put statistics out that we put to the local media, like I said, in newspapers and stuff like that. So the education and awareness has helped stop some of that. So did the proactive enforcement from our agencies too.
Could we go back to fentanyl? How much fentanyl does it take to...
Like maybe to cause death
Yes, sir.
It doesn't take very much at all. When we do drug seizures, we have to secure that evidence in evidence lockers and stuff. We had an officer get really dizzy and sick where we almost had to Narcan him just because he inhaled some. So he started getting dizzy and feel like he wanted to pass out. So it's very serious.
And what does fentanyl have an effect to our crime rates in Avoyelles Parish?
It affects our crime a good bit. Anytime you have drugs, you have violence and criminal behavior. They either sell it or they have to continue their habit if they're users, and usually they commit crimes to sell, maybe theft or something, break-in, burglaries and stuff, and they sell their drugs and they they need the money, so they break in residences and do things like that. And like I said, it does bring a lot of criminal behavior in the parish.
Do you see fentanyl mostly affecting the older community or the more youth community in our parish?
Actually, I see it affecting both. There's really no age for an addict, and usually when they get on it, it's very powerful. And usually a user always chases that high, that extreme high, or they want more, and it's a craving, I guess no different than someone who's never done drugs like us, who maybe craves chocolate or a certain, whatever your sweet tooth or whatever. But it's something that's, it's really a problem.
How are you seeing drugs use in schools?
The drug use in the school, we don't see a lot of it, but we know it's there. We try to use our resources. We partner with the principals. We partner with the school board. And we try to check with every school. We have school resource officers in every school. We use our drug dog. We can run with the principal's permission. We try to work with them, and we'll run our drug dogs around vehicles in the parking lot. We can do proactive enforcement like with lockers, whether it's in the gym or in the school. At that point, If we do get some narcotics, then we have to communicate with the parents and the staff, and we work with a lot of different things. And sometimes while looking for that, it usually brings about other things that we're not, necessarily looking for, but we may have found something else. Maybe a hit of an indicator, our dog indicated narcotics, we found narcotics, and at the same time, we might have found a suicide note in there. That was, somebody was contemplating suicide. So, it's a lot, it reaches out to a lot more than just what we're actually looking for.
What advice would you give to teenagers who feel peer pressured to try drugs?
If you're prepared to answer it when it happens, then you don't have to, okay, what am I going to say? How am I going to get around it? And maybe you can just come up with a short answer as, no, thank you. I appreciate it, but I'm not interested, and that's it. You don't have to go and explaining yourself of, why don't you have to do this or that? So I would say keep your answers short and sweet, but be prepared to answer it before it happens.
So always expect the unexpected.
You can, like I said, you can expect it. And like I said, prepare yourself if it happens. What if it's alcohol? What if it's a vape? It's because, drugs is not just illicit drugs or prescription pills. There's other things too. Alcohol, nicotine, you have marijuana, like I said, your illicit drugs, your meth, your heroines, and, other stuff. So be prepared to answer it.
And never be scared to reach out if you do find.
Yeah, you definitely want to be a leader and not a follower. You two are students, and you're going to graduate one day. I know you two will. And you're probably going to try to go to college or continue in education or something, furthering your education. So, don't think it's just going to happen just, at high school. It's going to happen maybe in college too. Think about this is whenever you apply to nursing school, guess what? They're going to do a background check on you, right? Any job application or future job application, you're going to probably be asked that question. Have you ever done drugs before? It's going to follow you for the rest of your life.
And now, what programs do y'all enforce to help ensure that children in schools have a better future?
We do the DARE program. The Sheriff's Department tries to assist the Youth Coalition, and y'all do a great job with that. I believe we were ranked number 1 in Louisiana probably about 3 to 5 years ago as underage drinking. I can tell you I've seen that number go down, even with high schoolers and young adults. I don't see the kids maybe partying and drinking as much as they used to, so y'all done a great job with that.
Not only the Sheriff's Department, but how can the community get involved to try and help prevent drug use?
We need the parents to get involved with the school and the Sheriff's Department or any law enforcement agency, because the parents, that's our first line of defense. The parent should spend the most time with their kid. They should know their kid more than maybe a teacher or a law enforcement officer. The people in our community are probably our biggest asset. With all the technology we have in law enforcement, we usually get it from the community first. The other day we posted something on Facebook and it was in 30 seconds. With the calls were just storming our office. We were able to identify some suspects.
As for somebody who's addicted to drugs, who can they reach out to seek help?
I would say it depends on your situation. If you're a student, reach out to anyone you trust, because, they're going to give you the best answer. Or that person you trust could be a parent, a teacher. There's some kids that are closer to the teachers than they are to their parent because they're embarrassed, or a peer, a good friend. Just get it to the right person and somebody will get you some help. You have to communicate with someone you trust. That way you can get the best help needed possible.
Thank you for joining us on our podcast, Sheriff David Dauzat.
No, thank you for having me again. And like I said, our goal is just to educate the community and the young adults, and I hope this brings awareness and help to the community.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us today for episode 1 of the Inside Initiative by the Avoyelles Community and Youth Coalition. Catch us on our next episode as we continue to pursue insight from our local professionals regarding drug abuse in Avoyelles Parish. See you on the next one.
Thank you for joining us in this episode. Tune in monthly as we gain insight from many of our local professionals to initiate change in Avoyelles Parish. For more information, please visit our website, www.avoyellescyc.org.